In the heart of Africa lies a conflict so vast, so devastating, that it has been called Africa's World War. Over 6 million lives lost, dozens of armed groups, a war driven by greed, power, and the minerals that power your phone. But how did one of the world's richest countries in natural resources become one of the deadliest battlefields on Earth? Who profits from the chaos? And why has the world remained so silent? This is the story of a war fueled by diamonds, gold, and coltan. A war where innocence is buried beneath the weight of history and survival is a matter of allegiance or luck. In this episode, we uncover the roots of the Second Congo War, the deadliest conflict since World War II, and trace its brutal legacy through the jungles of the Democratic Republic of Congo. From colonial exploitation to foreign interventions to the ruthless militias of today, what you're about to see is not just history, it's still happening. To understand the war in Congo, we must begin with a ghost that still haunts the rivers, the mines, and the very soil of this land, the ghost of King Leopold II. In 1885, the Congo was claimed as the personal property of one man, the King of Belgium. Under Leopold's rule, an estimated 10 million Congolese perished through forced labor, famine, and violence, all in the pursuit of ivory and rubber. The scars of that era never healed. They simply changed hands. When independence finally came in 1960, hope was brief and crushed swiftly. The West feared Soviet influence. The Congo's first democratically elected leader, Patrice Lumumba, was assassinated, with foreign fingerprints all over the scene. In his place rose Mobutu Sese Seko, a dictator propped up by Cold War powers whose rule lasted over 3 decades. Under Mobutu, the country, renamed Zaire, became a playground for corruption, a hollowed-out state where the people suffered while the elite grew rich. By the 1990s, Mobutu's grip weakened. Ethnic tensions, economic collapse, and regional instability set the stage for a brutal power shift. And then, the genocide in Rwanda sent a tidal wave across the border. A storm was coming. Refugees fled, militias followed, neighboring nations invaded. And in 1996, the First Congo War erupted. Mobutu was overthrown, but the fighting didn't end. It only evolved. In 1998, the deadliest conflict since World War II would begin, August 1998. The guns had barely cooled from the First Congo War when the world's deadliest conflict reignited with terrifying force. Only this time, it was bigger. Rwanda and Uganda, once allies of Congo's new leader Laurent Désiré Kabila, turned against him. Accusations flew. Betrayal, corruption, refusal to share power. They invaded again. But they weren't alone. What began as a mutiny spiraled into a multinational war. 9 nations, over 24 armed groups, civilians caught between them all. It wasn't just about politics anymore, it was about minerals, territory, revenge. In the chaos, warlords rose from the ashes. Children were taken from their homes and turned into killers. Women became weapons of war. Villages vanished overnight. And as the battle raged, the Congo's vast mineral wealth, gold, diamonds, coltan, flowed out of the country and into the global supply chain. Phones rang, laptops booted up, and no one asked why. The world watched and hesitated. The United Nations deployed its largest peacekeeping force in history, but even they were overwhelmed. By 2003, an uneasy peace deal was signed, but for millions it was already too late. Hunger, disease, gunfire, rape, displacement. The dead didn't always fall in battle, but they died all the same. And the question now wasn't just how it happened, but whether it ever truly ended. In the next chapter, we delve into the aftermath. The warlords who stayed in power, the militias that never disarmed, and the corporations still profiting from blood-soaked soil. This is not a closed chapter. This is a continuing nightmare. The peace deal was signed in 2003. Leaders shook hands, cameras flashed, the world exhaled, but in the shadows of the Congolese jungle, the war never stopped. Militias refused to disarm. New rebel groups formed with names like M23, Mai Mai, and the ADF. They carved up eastern Congo into zones of control, each faction a government unto itself, with its own taxes, checkpoints, and brutal rules. They fight not just for ideology, but for gold mines, smuggling routes, and foreign patronage. Today, more than 100 armed groups operate in the region. Villages are still burned, children still kidnapped, women still silenced. The government in Kinshasa remains fragile, powerful in name but powerless in the east. Even the United Nations, with billions in funding and over 18,000 troops, has failed to bring true peace. Accusations of inaction, exploitation, even abuse have tainted their mission. And yet the world keeps moving. We keep scrolling, swiping, uploading, powered by coltan and tungsten minerals mined in misery, conflict buried in our pockets, innocent lives traded for convenience, and the silence, deafening. There is no victory in the Congo, no triumphant ending, only survival, and a question the world still refuses to answer. How many more must die before we care? Yet amid the blood and the brokenness, there are voices calling for peace. Communities rebuilding, journalists uncovering truths, activists demanding justice. Because even in the darkest conflict, the human spirit fights back. If you found this story important, don't let it disappear. Like, share, subscribe, and help bring attention to a war the world tried to forget.